Hello and welcome to the Veranda Financing Podcast. I'm super excited to discuss a hot topic today with none other than Rachel Hill from Rachel Travels. She actually retired from corporate America at age 27, which is pretty awesome. She's a content creator, strategist, and speaker. Her company, Rachel Travels, helps shift the perception and narrative of what it is to be a Black traveler. She partners with global brands in creating and or adding travelers of color into their core marketing strategies. Rachel also helps build up current or aspiring online influencers, turn their passions and skills into a profitable business. Rachel Travels provides a chock full of information on various destinations such as South Africa, Mongolia, Cuba, and more. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This is awesome. I just wanted to start the interview, just let you know that you are so inspiring. You speak of
thank you.
You speak of how you actually left corporate America, and I really think a lot of people want to change their narrative. And you shared on your Instagram that you rewrote your story. Could you tell us a little about that journey?
Absolutely. So after graduating from Florida A&M, I went to like the best college. I had this amazing, college experience. And, after you kind of go through the path, right? Like you go to school, after university or whatever, you get a good job and then you do that good job, until you retire or, maybe switch jobs, switch roles after, 7 to 10 years or something like that. And I was on that trajectory. Like I graduated top of the class. I went to work for a Fortune top 20 corporation.
Wow.
So it was a great company. And by the time I was 26, I was making six figures. Like
That's awesome.
kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And so I did have this kind of like ideal life. After graduating, I moved to the New York area. So obviously you're like young, making the most money you've ever had, living in like the Big Apple. So I had like this very beautiful and full social life and all that good stuff. And then I ended up moving to Philadelphia, for the same job at the same company. They move you around.
Yeah.
And so then I, also had this great life in Philadelphia, like great downtown apartment, always up and down the East Coast and DC and back in New York and, weekend trips. So in theory, I had this great life. Like I said, I, was moving up very quickly in the company. Like I said, making six figures, living this like very full life in theory. But, on social media, it looks really great. It looks really lit. But in the background, I was very unhappy. And for some time, I couldn't figure out why I was unhappy. And I felt ashamed that I was unhappy because I'm like, but I literally have everything, I have the life that most people, dream of. I'm walking the path. Like I have the blueprint. Like I'm doing it. Right. And then I ended up going to therapy. I was silently going to see a therapist because I couldn't, like I said, and then also, let me back up, in the Black community, mental health is like, not so much anymore, but, back then it was kind of like a taboo subject.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was, so I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder and depression because I was so unhappy. I went to see my doctor, told her, how I was feeling, how I wasn't enjoying things that I loved anymore. My hair was falling out, like all this stuff. And so instead of getting on medication, I decided to go see a therapist. And so for a year, I would go on an extended lunch break on Wednesdays. And instead of going to lunch, I would go see my therapist. And I did this in secret for like a year. And then I finally got to a point where I'm like, I can't do this. Like, who really wants to live a life where I am putting on that I'm happy and that I have all these glittery things, but really I'm falling to the pressures of being, a Black woman in, I was in IT. So in a predominantly older white male-run industry, and I'm a young Black woman. I'm in, like, on this trajectory, and this is all this pressure and no mental, it was just like a lot
No, I
of things.
understand.
You're trying to be everything to everybody instead of like really defining what you want for yourself. And so I just made a decision that I had done it everyone else's way. Like I'd done it, the way my parents wanted me to do it, obviously the way society tells us we should do it. And I was like, I'm going to figure out what I want to do. And so I decided to leave corporate America, and I literally sold everything in my apartment or gave it away. And I would backpack I traveled domestically for like a month, and then for the rest of 2014. So I left in July, and for the rest of 2014, I went backpacking through Southeast Asia. And when I went backpacking through Southeast Asia, I kind of like really started dedicating some time to creating my blog, RachelTravels.com. And really, I just created it as like an open journal to talk about, why I left my good job, to document some of the conversations that I was having with people very curious about, this young Black American woman traveling solo through Asia. And then also to share how inexpensive it was, like I'm not spending a ton of money and I'm having these great experiences. And, I looked up and, posts were going viral. People were asking a lot of questions. And a little over 4 years later, this is where I am.
Wow. That's an amazing story. And I think there are so many things to unpack in that. I feel like a lot of people, because I've been there. When we went to the same school, Florida A&M, and I was working at a really good top investment bank in Manhattan, and I used to have panic attacks, and I don't really talk about it much, but I used to have panic attacks going to the office. I would literally start to get like my sweaty hands and shortness of breath out of nowhere. And there was a part of me that felt very guilty of feeling that way and experiencing that, because I'm like, I'm from an immigrant family, and, my parents worked so hard to get here, and, I should be happy I got this good job, and
right.
I should just be very happy that I'm here, but why am I so unhappy? And I think that a lot of times people numb that feeling with a lot of different vices to kind of make them get over it. And I applaud you for actually, saying, hey, I'm not going to be part of this journey, and I'm going to go over here and find my happiness. And in doing that, you created an amazing website and business. And 4 years later, but how was it that 4 years to this point? How was that journey after you did that and you started your company? How was the process?
It was hard,
Yeah.
And I try to do a good job or a better job about being very transparent about how difficult it is. And, I think a lot of times, and I still deal with this, is like, they call it imposter syndrome, right? Where you feel like you don't really know what you're doing or what you're talking about, because, a lot of times I'm like, I'm just winging it. Like there is no blueprint about being an entrepreneur or recreating your life.
You're right.
It's kind of like, you're just going, right? And so sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and people like actually listening to me and following me, like, okay,
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely difficult, like I said, because it's difficult but also rewarding. So let me not say, like, try to scare people off like it's so hard. So it's difficult because there is no blueprint. As much as people want to say, this is how you make six figures, this is how you do this is how you get to the top, everyone's path is different. And I think more so as being an entrepreneur, it's not more so of a financial journey as it is a spiritual journey, because now you are putting so much faith in yourself and, whatever higher power that you believe in or don't believe in. But there is no, like, if you work really hard in this role for a year or two, you'll move to the next level, right? It's not any of that. It's more so like, you just have to figure out what works for you. You have to study, your audience. You have to study your analytics. And so you're constantly learning, and you're also by yourself. So that's also like that difficult component as well, because you don't really you're not in an office full of people who may share some of those similar sentiments as you. You're kind of like on your own. And of course you can create these communities, which is amazing, and absolutely you should. But still, like, even if I'm in a community with similar people, what I'm doing or how I'm doing my business model may be different from the next person, right? So, and really it's like all of us are kind of like trying to figure it out. But I would say, like, the journey has been also super rewarding because I can actually see the fruits of my labor.
Right.
And I felt like in corporate, it was very, you're working in at least I was working in such a large corporation that I didn't really see the end results of all the hard work I was doing. It was probably like a little piece of the puzzle, right?
Right.
But I can say the rewarding part about recreating my life and, even being an entrepreneur is I can actually see the end results of the things that I've been working hard for, that I've been sacrificing for. So that's like the rewarding part. And then also, literally being able to write down, like, this is what I see my life as, and then kind of creating your own blueprint and allowing, and I'm very spiritual, so I'll just kind of go there, but allowing the Most High to, have those opportunities come forth for you, or actually, like,
right.
I've even, like, gone to my journals and, like, written things down. I was actually going through an old journal from, like, 2015, and a lot of the things that I had written, I had done, I had experienced, I had met the type of person or, whatever it was. And I'm like, wow, how powerful it is to write your dreams, write your prayers, write your intentions, and then they manifest themselves.
Wow.
And so that's why I'm very, like, open and encouraging people to, recreate your life. And that doesn't mean quit your job like me. Everybody shouldn't do that because it's not for everyone, right?
Right.
But you can have the type of life that you want, the type of experiences that you want, the type of relationships that you want. Or, like, you can create that or co-create it with the Most High.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And above all, just start somewhere. I think that once you take that first step, you will know the next step to take. And I think that's one of the hard parts about entrepreneurship, and also the rewarding part, is that there is no blueprint. I mean, you could follow someone else's model, but they are still different than you. You're your own self, unique self. And when it's your business, you're going to see that in your own business, what works for you. But taking that first step, it will reveal the next step, and you kind of explore 100%. While you're acting. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people want the whole big picture, like, how am I going to get to step 7? And it's like, no, just get to step 1. And like
exactly.
Step 2 will, will reveal itself. And it's really just staying very present, which is something I've learned, being, like, recreating my life and being in this particular journey. Because in corporate America, it's kind of like, at least how it was for me, is like, okay, cool. If I do this well for a year or two and I, like, make these sort of connections, that I know I can move into this role. So you can kind of look in the future and say, like, this is where I want to be, and I kind of know what I need to do to get there. When you are on this journey, it's like, I see where I want to be, but I have no idea how to get there.
Right.
So let me just start with just taking that first step and then, building brick by brick.
Right. And you don't really know who's going to come in your path while you're building that could actually help you get to that next level, and that could, like, kind of give you even more of a guidance of what direction you should really take.
Mm-hmm.
So you recently became an expat in Johannesburg, South Africa. I've been following you on YouTube, which is pretty amazing. You have your vlogs on YouTube, and Johannesburg is really nice. I've never been there, but from what I see and what you're showing, it's beautiful. Can you tell us about your experience so far?
Yeah, so one of the things that I had these, like, things that I wanted to do, right? Like, definitely wanted to, like, travel the world and all that stuff. So one of the bigger goals that I had was to be an expat for an extended period of time. So when I was at CMU, I studied abroad.
Oh, that's nice.
And even one time I studied abroad in Nairobi, Kenya for a semester. But again, it's like I wouldn't say I was really an expat. I was there for a few months, and then, of course, I had to come back home and finish school, and I started working. And so one of the things I wanted to do was actually live abroad, like have an apartment, have a daily routine, make friends, like have my favorite nail shop and favorite restaurant and favorite, bar and all that kind of stuff. And so then earlier this year, I kind of like made the decision in December.